Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 46 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you from the international headquarters of GSM Services and looking forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We seem to believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week and have the husband and wife team of Brittany and Phillip Bryson's with us today from Bunny Blessings. This has been an episode that our office especially has been looking forward to. But Brittany and Phillip, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to just get right to it like usual. Maybe start with you, Brittany. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and anything you would like to share.
Yes. Well, by training, I'm a physician assistant. I did that for about 10 years, and then I took off some time to homeschool our children. And then when they headed back to school, I was kind of looking for my next thing to do. And we were in church one Sunday, and our pastor was talking about finding ways to love one another in our community. And I thought, well, I want to do more. And I talked to Phillip about it when we got home from church that day and started thinking kind of through some things of one of my gifts is nurturing and hospitality. And we had a pet bunny named Oscar at the time that whenever friends and family would come over, they were just amazed that a pet bunny could be so social, and everyone fell in love with him. So we started talking about pet therapy, bunny therapy specifically. It's a very unique thing. And we started collecting bunnies in our home and and in our garage, and we started this ministry, and it's been awesome.
All right, very good. Phillip, what about you, sir?
Well, I actually am, don't hold it against me, but I am an attorney by training. But,
that's okay. We won't hold that against you.
Yeah,
We've had attorneys on before.
I haven't practiced in a long time.
You're a recovering attorney.
Yes, that's right. I spent about 20 years working for the same company, and then we sold the company, retired, and I retired about 6 years ago. Brittany told me I was too young to sit at home and do nothing, so I have a variety of things. I own a small company here in town that happens to be a heating and air conditioning company, but and then I developed some real estate, and then frankly, recently, I'm about a 3/4 employee of Bunny Blessings. It's the ministry's just opening. The Lord is opening doors for us that we would have never imagined. When we started with 2 bunnies, one lived in our dining room and one lived in our formal living room, and that grew to 10 bunnies in our garage. We lived in Kramer Mountain at the time, so it was in a gated community with 10 bunnies in the garage. I couldn't park a car. And it just wasn't working. You couldn't bring visitors or even volunteers as regularly. And so about a year and a half ago, we got the opportunity to move to Belmont. And we got 5 acres right in the heart of Belmont. And we're able to build a barn through a series of miracles. And that was right in the middle of COVID. So God knew what we needed. It was impractical to go into nursing homes, which is where the ministry kind of started because of COVID. But we could invite people into the barn. And that opened up just a whole new avenue of opportunities to minister to people.
Okay.
It's been great.
Wow. Okay, so you gave a little bit of history there. Brittany, anything you would add to that history or what? I mean, you kind of, you told the quick story about your church and how you were kind of sounds like you felt called to do this or to look for the next thing. Was there anything you add to the history or what was going through your head and then obviously you mentioned bunny therapy, if that's the right, forgive me if that's not the right term.
That's the right.
Being so unique, and I have only been aware of it for about a year or so myself. So anything you would like to add to that? And then how did you end up here and what brought you to where we are today?
Yes, so we started looking into it. We actually went to Texas to Pet Partners. It's a international pet therapy program, and started learning more and more about how to do this officially. Started getting insurance and training, and then started getting the rescue bunnies and reaching out to assisted livings and nursing homes. A lot of people at those places, they don't get visited very often, so we wanted to go spread some joy with them. So just we had a speaker with our church recently that was talking about put your yes on the table and walk through the open doors. And so it was scary the first time I took a bunch of bunnies to an assisted living.
I'm sure.
But the Lord has just blessed it, and it's just been wonderful since then. Yeah, and we would have people who we want to come see your bunnies, and they were in the garage. I thought, well, it's kind of messy and kind of smelly. It's not really a therapeutic environment. So when we moved, we were able to open the bunny barn, and we've had well over 1,000 people come through the Bunny Barn since then. And since COVID's ended, we've started being able to go back out into the community as well.
All right. So that's very, that's just unique story. And it's a unique opportunity here for our community. So, Brittany, maybe stay with you. Can you tell, do you have a very specific mission, or what is it that, you're trying to accomplish, kind of day to day in your operations? Or
Sure. Well, our mission statement is little bunnies with the big mission to love one another. So love one another is our motto. And talking about pet therapy, I mean, it's proven to lower cortisol levels, stress levels. Lots of times we go to the assisted living and nursing home, the staff will tell us that their residents are so much more calm while we're there, and even after we leave, they're less agitated. Sometimes they don't want to leave their room, but when they hear that the bunnies are here, they want to come to the community room to see us. And people will say they haven't smiled or they haven't talked in weeks, and we're there, and just something with the bunnies brings them out, and just have a really good time with them.
I mean, how could you not? How could you not smile or laugh or whatever when you're talking have bunnies around? And if you haven't, and I mentioned this, we were talking before we started recording, but if you haven't been to the website, I mean, we'll make sure everybody knows how to get to the website and learn more information. But I spent more time on the page with the bunnies on it than I did really learning more about the details of the organization. So that was very interesting. Phillip, anything you would add to that, or maybe we can move into some of the initiatives? I mean, you've mentioned nursing homes. Maybe just talk about some of, I'm not sure programs is the right way to describe that, but just kind of some of the things that you guys are doing and have been doing, what kind of groups are coming in, that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, I would like to add something to what Brittany said.
Okay.
This is what I challenged. I was just mentioning to you before we started. In the last week, we've had 300 kindergartners and first graders from Page Elementary School come through the barn. And it's just awesome. Kids saying, it's the best field trip ever. We had one little boy as he was leaving said, "I love it here. I'm going to work at the bunny barn." He's 5 years old, and he doesn't realize we don't have any paid employees. But
when you're in elementary school, it doesn't matter.
Yes, we had one little boy with special needs whose teacher said she'd had him in her class all year long, and she had never seen him smile until the day he was at our barn, and he didn't want to leave. And that's why we do it. We want to share God's love with our community. We live in a very dark world right now.
Yes.
Kind of surrounded by darkness, and we want to do our little part to beat it back.
Yeah. And
we think we do that by loving one another in ways that God has gifted us. My wife was one of the things I had to challenge her with is we're a volunteer organization, and as God opens more doors, we're praying about, I'm not sure how much, we may need to hire some people.
Right.
And which means we have to expand our funding sources. And one of the first things we had to do, she used to say, "Well, I feel bad taking money from people when I could be sending money to missionaries in Africa or all these other charities." And I said, "Well, you have to decide. Is what you're doing important enough to merit people giving you money to help you? Not to use on, she doesn't take salary, so it's not to be consumed by us, but to be used to love people." And she really prayed about that, and I'm very proud of her. And she said, this is how God has gifted me. And yes, it's a little unique, it's a little different, but the body of Christ has arms, it has legs, it has eyes, it has ears, it has noses, it has all the different body parts. And if God gave me this gift, gave me this calling, and has created all these opportunities, then what I'm doing is worthwhile. And I'm loving people. And Stephen, we have a one-eyed rabbit that the vet was going to put down. She had a cancer in her eye, and we said, "No, don't put her down." We thought at first, well, it's going to creep people out. Who wants to see a one-eyed bunny? That's kind of weird. But then we thought, no, wait, God uses us all.
Right.
No matter what your ability or disability or your whatever you think is holding you back might just be the thing that God's going to use to put you forward. And so that's my view of the mission of what we're doing. I will try to answer your question, though.
No, that was terrific. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, in terms of initiatives, we started predominantly in nursing homes and assisted living facilities, And then once we started and went Pet Partners, we went to one of their conferences. They're 99% dogs, basically. It's mostly most people have seen dogs as therapy animals. But some people are afraid of dogs. Maybe especially big dogs, or maybe they got bit when they were a child, or nobody's afraid of a bunny. So when Brittany started researching it, there's one other organization that does this up in Minneapolis. So she got some advice from them. And we started in nursing homes, and we've just found that the impact that the animals have isn't unique to older adults. It is effective for children. It's effective for regular adults. We've now been to multiple college campuses for Stress Less Week during exams. And so we're finding, so one of the things we want to do as we imagine what God might want to do with the ministry is expand. We've been to the library. We want to start a Reading with Rabbits program where we have a classroom space at the bunny barn. We bring kids in. You can read to them, or they can read to the bunnies if you have kids who have trouble reading. We have started a hospice ministry. Hospice does not just end-of-life counseling, but they do grief counseling for younger people as well. So we have one little girl. In fact, we were just featured in the regional hospice magazine. One of the little girls, Carly, her father passed away. They were doing counseling with her. She was totally closed, would not talk to the counselor. The counselor had the idea to bring her to the bunny barn. Now she comes to the barn once a month. We let her play with one of the bunnies. Her favorite is Buster. He's a little Dutch bunny. He's black and white. Looks like a Holstein cow, basically. Bunny version of a Holstein cow. And she loves that bunny. And she's totally opened up with her counselor. The counseling has been much more effective. We had the opportunity to raise some money and gift her family some things last Christmas. And one of the things we gave her was a little stuffed bunny that looks just like Buster. We went to her school. We didn't know it was her school. Brittany saw Carly, and she's carrying that little stuffed bunny. Her teacher says she brings it to school every day. She won't put it down. And that's what we're trying to do. So expanding the ministry. Reading with Rabbits is a ministry we're starting. College ministries, we've got an opportunity to go to multiple colleges within a 2-hour radius of Charlotte. We're going to be doing story time with rabbits in the evenings. We're going to be doing more assisted living. And so we've talked about maybe starting a camp in the summer, but like I say, this is a volunteer ministry, and the opportunities we're in a state of transition right now of praying through how do we get enough resources to do all these things if these doors are open. So,
all right, that was a lot. But I appreciate you sharing that. Brittany, was there anything you would add to that, or did he do a pretty good job covering it?
Oh, he did an awesome job covering stuff. Something else that we do try to do that we were talking about earlier.
You shouldn't have given me this coffee, Steve.
Okay, no, it's all good. Well,
he's hyped
the right kind of cup, too, by the way.
We work a lot on our social media, especially through Facebook. We do a little bit through Instagram, but just trying to post positive content throughout the day. And so those are we've reached people over in Australia. We had some baby bunnies that were born in the barn about a year ago, and we had a hospital in Australia that the nurses were all following our babies. So it's not just limited to our community. We had a church actually in New Jersey that donated some money to us. So we're reaching people everywhere, even through just social media. People say, we love to come see your page. It makes us smile. And that's great. That always makes me smile when I hear that we're making other people smile.
Yeah, that's nice to hear because for me, social media can be this wonderful thing, but it can also be, the other side of it. So it is nice to hear the positive side of social media, how easily you can reach others, and not necessarily just down the street here in Gaston County. So you've already shared a couple of these stories, and maybe I'll stay with you, Brittany, where this question is going to be for both of you, but are there any other stories you can share, or like anecdotal specifics where a family, an individual, or something that you have seen personally? I'm sure you've got lots of stories, but something that you might share, obviously without getting into too much detail, individuals, but just something you can share about the impact you guys have seen.
Yes, a couple of years ago, we were visiting a nursing home, and there was a lady that was there on hospice care, and her 2 adult daughters were there visiting her. And they saw Rita out in the hall with our bunny Buster. And they said, Mom, let's go see the bunny. So they pushed her out in her wheelchair into the hall to see Rita and the bunny. And the mom started petting Buster and kind of cooing at him. And the daughter said, well, it's time for us to go, Mom. We love you. And she said, I love you too. And later on, we found out that she had not spoken in a couple of months. And she passed away about a month later and didn't speak again. But that little bit of time with Buster was enough to tell her daughters, I love you, one last time. And what a gift to them. They told us that later. And it still gives me chills every time I tell that story of just, you think it's just a little bunny, you know. Bunnies are little prey animals. They can't do much. But, wow, they really can.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sure that's something those two daughters will never forget.
Yes.
Phillip, anything you would add or something that you've seen personally other than what you've already shared? You've shared a couple already.
I've seen one of the things that I'm happy with is that people with different giftings have been able to help us. And that's, you know, most of the volunteers that come to the barn are ladies. They seem to be drawn to bunny care and therapeutic care. But we've had men do lots of things. We wouldn't have, Rita. Her son actually built the barn for us.
Oh, really?
Alan Poteet. Yeah, he's a builder. We had a small building that we thought we were going to be able to use. It wasn't going to work out. He came over, designed the entire barn for us, built it for us at his cost, and we couldn't have done that without him. And Alan is a wonderful guy. He's a bodybuilder, big guy.
Oh, really?
Like 6'2", big muscles, tattoo sleeves. We would think, what's he going to do in a bunny ministry? Well, without him, it wouldn't exist.
Right.
It wouldn't exist today. We've had people come and do landscaping for us. We've had people, we've got a good friend of mine who's getting ready to come and build an outdoor play area for the bunnies. We've had Boy Scouts who did their Eagle Scout projects for us. So people finding ways to use their gifts to help us that aren't exactly the day-to-day bunny care is awesome to me. Finding ways for people to serve with whatever gift they have is kind of one of our secondary mottos.
Well, good. Yeah, that's good.
That's what we encourage, especially when we're meeting with school children. Well, really anybody, is this is a really unique or weird thing that we do. We take bunnies out and we have a bunny barn. But I use that to say whatever unique gift you have can be used to love and serve other people. So when they think, well, that's a weird thing, I can't use that. Oh, yes, you can. If we could take 12 bunnies and use them, you can use whatever gift you have.
Yeah, so we heard a name. I'm going to give a shout out to Rita Davis, who I know from the United Way, my involvement there. And also, so I actually heard first about Bunny Blessings from her and Jennifer Grant, both at the United Way. So I would be in trouble if I didn't give a shout out to them during this episode.
They're both awesome. Thanks.
Yeah,
for
they really are, and they are all in with your organization. I can assure you. Looking back at the last couple of years. Can either one of you, this is again for both of you, is there something specific, or it could be more than one thing? What are you kind of most proud of accomplishing, in your time here at since you got Bunny Blessing started? There was no video here, but there was just a point across the table to someone to answer that question.
I'm proud of my wife for embracing her gift and leaning into it. I mean, she, as our kids were getting older, I have 3 children. One's an adult already, and then a senior in high school and a sophomore. As they were getting older, she had a little more time on her hands, and she could have used that in any number of ways. She could have gone back to work. She could have gone to the country club and played tennis every day, but she wanted to serve, and maybe she didn't know what she was getting herself into. Maybe some of that's good, because if she had known how much she was getting herself into.
Sometimes it's better not to know that, right?
That's right. But and it's been uncomfortable at times, not just going in a nursing home for the first time, but she's had to stretch herself in ways that are uncomfortable to her, whether that be, and I've been able to support her. We have different gifting, right? I have a background in finance, the law, business, and so I'm able to support in that way, things that she's not as gifted with. But I'm just proud of her for leaning into the gifts she has and going through the open doors when it's been scary. And I mean, we went from 2 bunnies living in our house to 10 bunnies living in our garage to this month, the month of March, we will impact over 1,000 people with Bunny Blessings, either going into the community or the community coming to the barn. And that's just remarkable. From a pet rabbit is how it all started.
All right, just to repeat that, in 1 month, talking about 1,000 individuals impacted. So I think my experience, I've been fortunate to be really involved in the community the last 20 years or so in different ways. And then through the course of the last year, having so many different great organizations coming into these podcasts. And I think in a lot of the situations, it is an individual's passion or idea or willingness to go do something that makes them uncomfortable. That's how something that's scary, that's how things happen. That's how most good things happen. So, Brendan, how would you describe that? Answer that question, because he just laid a lot on you right there, which was terrific. But what are you most proud of accomplishing in your time since you were able to start this?
I'm just proud about how many people that it's impacted.
Sure.
I kind of first thought it will be, the folks at the nursing home, which we certainly have. But then I realized, well, no, it's the staff, or it's their families that's visiting them, or even our volunteers. We have a volunteer who moved here a little over a year ago from Indiana, and she didn't know hardly anyone. And somehow she got linked into Bunny Blessings, and we've just became her community here. And she loves it. She mentors a teenager that comes to do bunny care with her. And so I just love how it's given a lot of people a purpose, way more than what I initially thought.
Well, I also have learned with my involvement in the community, trying to do the best we can here, running a company of 240-ish people, and how those families are affected. Ultimately, it is the impact, and the purpose is to how can we impact others, and how can we develop better relationships. And so, gosh, this is good. Again, this is a podcast about Gaston County, so I'm going to ask both of you this question. And you've already answered this, really, but I'm going to try to maybe get it to you in your own words. And why is Gaston County better, Brittany, because Bunny Blessings is here?
Well, I really think that when you pour into other people, it allows them to keep pouring into other people, and then your reach is way more than what you've originally done. So I think that's something neat that we've done for Gaston County, is just pouring into people and allowing our blessings to give them to bless other people too.
Phillip, would you answer that any differently, or?
I would add to that just to say, just for example, we had a pile of brush that needed to be taken care of it was unsightly and somewhat dangerous right by the bunny barn. Brittany put out an appeal. We had I think it was Tiny Tim's came over, and
Tiny Tim's.
They just showed up, cleared it, and took it away. They didn't charge us anything, didn't even tell us. 2 weeks later, guess whose granddaughter was at the barn for her first ever field trip?
Wow.
Tiny Tim's. And so doing things like that encourage people. When you get positive reinforcement from being kind, it encourages you to be kind. And like you say, we have a dark world that we live in right now. So people need that encouragement. Do something kind, and it won't always come back to you immediately, but it will down the road. Even if it's nothing more than just how you feel about being kind, and helping you take your focus off of the worries and the stress and the concern of the world. One of the best, reading a great book right now, biographies of people of faith, and a great antidote for depression and sadness is serving others.
Sure. Yep.
So serving others and encouraging others to serve others is how I think we're helping make Gaston better.
All right. I'm going to call these are legit answers you guys are putting out here. Brittany, how do you envision the organization looking 5 to 10 years down the road, or you can't get past next month? But
Well, that goes back to we have different giftings. So, yes, I'm more on a day-by-day or month
understand.
basis, barely looking into May. And Phillip does ask me a lot of time, what do you want to do 5 years from now? What about 10 years from now? Which starts stressing me out because I think I'm getting through today.
Right.
But that's good because I need that. I need to be challenged with that as well. And definitely we're wanting to grow. We're getting lots of requests for visits. We're actually going into Georgia in a couple of weeks. We've been down into South Carolina several times. We've been asked to come to Asheville and Asheboro. So lots of requests to go further out. And
the governor's mansion wants her to
Yes,
come.
the governor's mansion has invited us. So just looking forward. Can you imagine buddies in the governor's mansion? They're pretty excited. They're ready to pack their bags.
yeah, actually, I could, but
So just growing and wondering what God has planned for us with that, whether that's opening other branches in other areas, or we were recently blessed with some donations that allowed us to purchase a new van. So
Okay.
we're going to get that wrapped. You'll see a bunny van driving all around with cute bunnies everywhere.
good.
Just
Yeah,
one more
we're-
thing to make people smile.
We're all about wrapping vehicles and vans.
And animals,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
So we were blessed with that, so that'll allow us to do more traveling as well.
All right, from the attorney business guy, how would you answer that 5 to 10 year question? Or
Well, we have to have a big audacious goal, right? And we will hit 1,000 impacts this month.
was that the most?
Yes,
in a
by
month?
far.
Okay.
And that's just to give you the pace of growth. January was around 300.
Okay.
So that's why you see both of us. You can't see us, but our eyes are both quite large right now.
It almost sounds like, is it fair to say that you were cruising, COVID relaxes, and then
Yes.
everybody's like, okay,
Bingo.
we need the bunnies.
Yes.
Bingo.
So we were busy with the first year with assisted livings and nursing homes, and then that cooled off for a little bit, and then we started working on it worked perfectly. God had a great plan there because the bunny barn started booming. We got that all situated, and now we're doing both parts of the ministry. So, and they're both growing.
So we got on a list of people who will come to nursing homes for free, and apparently that both being on the list and being for free made us very popular. So we're getting it's not for free, but we do everything. We don't charge anybody, but
Sure.
it's donation based. And anyway, we go out. So we're getting requests from all over for visits, and now field trips have opened up, and now. This was the first field trip that Paige had been on in 2.5 years. So most of these kids were kindergartners and first graders. Their first ever field trip.
Right.
So maybe it's not a high bar to be the best field trip ever, but we did get that feedback from teachers who'd been teaching for over 20 years. So this is the best field trip ever, and encouraging the kids, use your gifting, love your neighbor, which is your classmate, your neighbor, your family, your teacher. So what I'd like to see us impact 10,000 people a month. And I think that's practical. I mean, Charlotte's booming, and
Sure.
It doesn't have to be limited to Charlotte. I mean, we've talked about, in fact, this afternoon, we have a meeting with a friend of mine who is interested in potentially starting a satellite location in Charleston, South Carolina. So
Wow.
we barely know what we're doing, much less helping start another location. But okay, maybe. We both we've been privileged to travel to Hawaii a few times the last few years. I was talking to Brittany, when are we going to start Hawaiian hares so I can go visit that?
Oh, that's good. So when he said 10,000, did that make you queasy at all, or over there on the operations side?
Not really, mostly excited. So
Okay.
we're trying to add more volunteers and add more teams of volunteers. Previously, basically, we've had one team, but now we've kind of got 3 teams going. And we've got almost enough bunnies, probably need to add a couple more, but we could about get it to where we can do visits on a daily basis as we add more.
Well, I'm going to selfishly ask, have you ever been to Morningside here in Gastonia?
We have been to Morningside.
Okay,
Yes, we
my
have.
mother-in-law is a resident there, so
Okay,
I was just curious. If not, I was going to get that set up immediately.
Yes, I think we've probably been to 200 or 300 nursing homes, assisted livings.
okay.
We've been to Catherine's house, the transitional homeless shelter
Yep.
in Belmont. We've been to the domestic abuse shelter here in Gastonia. We've done some crisis location stuff. There was an active shooter a couple of years ago, or actually probably been 3 years ago now, in Cramerton. And I just took one of our littlest bunnies, Charlie, and went down there. They had evacuated a lot of the older folks. And if I was just going, people would have looked at me like, what are you doing here? But when I had a cute little bunny, they all, oh, there's a bunny. And they wanted to pet him, and it was just helping to calm a little bit the situation happening.
I remember that's what they did at 9/11, right? There were dogs.
Yeah.
And, and we take bunnies in the same locations. So, that kind of growth requires a vision and requires a different way of doing things, right? When Brittany says there was one team, it was basically Brittany, Rita, and Diane, who are 3 key volunteers, would go on every visit. Well, if you're going to reach 10,000, if you're going to reach 1,000 people in a month, that can't be your organization structure. So now what we're doing is splitting. So Rita will head one, Diane will head one, and Brittany will head one, which means you need 2 or 3 more volunteers to go with each of them. It stresses the bunnies. Taking bunnies out into a different environment, you're transferring your stress to them. So you can't really take the bunnies multiple times a day. So you have to put them on a rotation. So you aren't taking all the bunnies to every single visit. Then you have more scheduling. You have to put in place an infrastructure, which we don't have. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's a funny story. So we get requests or inbound inquiries. People think we're a rabbit rescue. We are not a rabbit rescue. We love bunnies, but we don't have the facilities or the resources to rescue rabbits, but people call and they get frustrated because Brittany won't call them back immediately. They don't realize it's my wife who happens to be picking up our daughter and taking her to her allergy shot and then going by to pick up the groceries and trying to get home and prepare dinner. And, I'm going to call you back in between times. Give us a little bit of cut us a little slack. We're doing the best we can, but
Right.
if we're going to get that big, we're going to probably have to hire some people, which means we have to diversify our funding sources. Try to find other people who buy into this, and we will expand as the Lord provides resources. We're not going to. We want to wait on His timing, so it's not like we don't get anything out of it other than getting to love more people. So, but it's exciting. Lots of doors are open.
So when you have, say, 3 teams like that, how many bunnies are you typically taking on a field trip or to some location?
For the field trip, the children were able to see all 12 bunnies that are part of our program. When we go out on visits, we typically take about 6 to 8 of them.
Okay.
And all the bunnies have different personalities. So as we do our volunteer training, they get to know the bunnies, and they kind of know which ones are feisty and which ones are just going to sit there for hours. And they kind of monitor the bunnies during visits to realize, this bunny needs a break. So we kind of rotate them while we're out too. But that's part of the training, is to learn the animal and bunny behavior.
So are there what else, any other questions that I haven't asked that I should have? Anything that you'd like to share about the organization? And we're going to shift gears briefly, because this is a podcast about Gaston County, but obviously the main point before we finish, we'll make sure our listeners know how to volunteer, help out, find out more, learn more about the organization, and we'll make sure that we get all that covered before we're finished.
No, you did a great job, Stephen. Thanks for having us on the show.
Absolutely. So as I've mentioned, and this is kind of the section of the podcast where we just shift gears briefly to kind of focus back on Gaston County a little bit, and this is really what all your friends and relatives, this is really what they really want to know about you, especially Rita is going to be listening very closely to the answer to these questions. And this week, this is the bunny speed round of questions, Elizabeth. Is that the obvious? That's the obvious name for this week. All right. So, Brittany, we'll start with you. What is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Ooh, it's not just a flavor. So you have to get the black cherry, and then you order a hot fudge cake. And they will people may think they only put vanilla on the hot fudge cake. No. They'll put any flavor you want. So hot fudge cake, black cherry ice cream with the chocolate hot fudge they have. Oh, my goodness. All right, it's delicious.
That's serious.
Yeah.
Phillip, what about you?
Chocolate.
That's my man right there. Chocolate is it. Phillip, Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Cheerwine.
I'll have to say Sundrop, because I have to keep it in the buddy barn to keep the volunteers happy.
Okay, yep, that is a long-time local staple. Brittany, what about you? Favorite local restaurant?
Ray Nathan's. We love Ray Nathan's. We travel a lot, and we've tried brisket and ribs, lots of other places now, and it's just a disappointment after Ray Nathan's came to the area, because it's just delicious.
Ray Nathan's is great. In fact, that reminds me, I don't think I've been there recently. So
you got to wait till tomorrow. They open on Thursday.
That's right. Phillip, what about you on that one?
Well, I love Tony's, of course, but we like JJ's Sweet Shop, the former Dairy Queen in Belmont.
Yeah.
They have great ice cream, banana splits. Their hot fudge is awesome.
Okay, very good. What about favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County besides taking the bunnies around?
I would say either, is Crowder's Mountain in Gaston County?
It is?
Yeah,
Yep.
we love Crowder's. We like to go up there and hike.
Yeah, Crowder's is a great, unique thing we have here, and it's a popular answer.
We also like to go to Goat Island, so that's pretty close to Belmont and Cramerton where we've lived, and we like going over there. We like hitting Floyd and Blackies while we're over in that area.
Yeah, you actually could spend a day just in that area.
Oh, yes.
And eat breakfast, be on the river, be at Goat Island. I mean,
it's music to my ears.
Yeah.
So last year we bought the former Masonic Lodge in downtown Cramerton. We're redeveloping it.
Okay.
And you want some news on your podcast?
Absolutely.
We have a new tenant. Floyd and Blackie's going to move across the street. We're going to expand.
Oh, well, fantastic.
We're going to bring their bakery there. We're going to bring...
so this is the first
announcement.
What would you call this?
Breaking news.
The first
Breaking
scoop.
News. Yeah, you got
Gaston's Great Scoop.
We're going to bring in Decoria's Bagels, which used to be up across from Pep Boys. They're going to move in. We put all 3 of them together. We have outdoor dining, looking down on the river. The town is redeveloping the parking lot, putting in a pedestrian walkway. It's going to be lovely.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So there you go. You heard it here. Heard it here first. So this is the question that I just reserve the right to ask just because I can. And I say that every week. And maybe, Brittany, start with you. UNC Duke or NC State?
To be honest, I get confused between the two. I am not a sports person.
Well, you don't have to be
I'll
a
ask
sports
Phillip,
person. But
which one is the Tar Heels? Which one? Yeah, I'm from Tennessee originally. And so we were just all about UT there. That was it.
So
That's
the
all we had.
Volunteers. So the Volunteers?
Yeah, I'll be about the Volunteers. The other teams, I'm just like, that's my favorite blue. So we'll go with that one. Phillip can tell you more.
Mm. She does like blue better than red, so
Yes.
it'd have to be probably you'd be UNC Duke.
Give me something, Elizabeth. Give me. All right, we'll move on. So, Phillip, what is something very few people know about you?
I'm adopted. I was
Okay.
adopted when I was a baby.
Okay, that is interesting. I think that's a first I think we've had for that question. Brittany, what about you?
Possibly that I'm an introvert because of what I do. People, if I tell them that, they're like, no,
No
you're not.
way,
But, but like when we've been doing the school groups, I absolutely love it. It's great. But when they leave, I am worn out
You're
for the rest
exhausted,
of the day. I don't
yeah.
want anyone else to talk to me. I need to go re-energize. So
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I am as well, and I'm less tired going to run, 7 or 8 miles with my workout buddies, and then trying to, frankly, maybe doing this podcast as an example or speaking in front of a group. Those kind of, that thing just
Exactly.
wears me out. So, Brittany, a recent book or something that you would recommend to our leaders, blogs or articles that you...
I have not been reading a lot. He's been reading a good book, Legacies of Light, that he's been sharing with me that he could tell you about.
Legacy of Light. It's biographies of people of faith, great leaders of faith, and it's awesome because it describes them with all their warts. We tend to think of people who've accomplished great things for God as being perfect, and they weren't.
Oh yeah, no question.
You read the life of David, read the life of Moses from the Bible. They were frail, weak people just like we are, and yet God used them to accomplish great things. And it's the same thing, with D.L. Moody or Charles Spurgeon or lots of people who are covered in this book.
I've recently read, read in the last 6 months, several, not just his works, but also some books about him. C.S. Lewis, and he has turned into one of my favorites for lots of different reasons. So anyway, but I appreciate you sharing that. We just like to share that. I'm a big reader myself, and so I'll share something later myself to share about that. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. Again, that was Legacy of Light or Legacy of Lights? Legacy of Light.
Legacies of Light.
Legacies of Light. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. All right. So again, I appreciate you indulging us on those Gaston County questions and sharing a little bit about yourself personally. So we're going to finish up here with just a couple more questions, and then we'll again make sure we share everything our listeners need to know about Bunny Blessings. So, Brittany, maybe start with you on this one. Besides Bunny Blessings, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
I would just say the people. Just lots of friendly people. I'm glad we were able to take our masks off now so people could see us smiling. I always tried to smile with my eyes, but I wasn't always the best at it. So just being able to smile at people, talk to them, just find connections. People are friendly here.
Yeah, virtual stuff was great in some situations, but man, that personal interaction and face-to-face stuff for me is just so important, and so much is lost, I think, when you're unable to do that. Phillip, how would you answer that question?
Similarly, I've lived in numerous parts of the country. I've lived in Texas and New York and Michigan. I grew up in South Carolina and have lived here for 17 years now, and the people are different. I think a lot of it is rooted in our faith. This is the buckle of the Bible belt.
Sure.
And so people have somewhat, have values, family values, and society values, and that reflects in how we treat one another. And you have people who want to serve others, people who are good-hearted, people who work hard. We have generally a good, hard work ethic, and I just think that makes this a wonderful place. Do I wish I lived I lived in Charleston, South Carolina for a while. That's a hard place to leave. But,
yeah, Charleston's very nice.
Yeah,
sure is.
Do I wish we had a beach? Sure. Do I wish we had a couple more mountains? Sure. But the people here make it a very special place.
It's unique too. You can get to the mountains and the beach pretty quickly if you wanted to. But I appreciate that because and I agree that, and that's a relatively common answer is that it is the people, and we've kind of mentioned that interaction and those relationships are so important. So, Phillip, staying with you on this one, this is I think this is my favorite question probably that we try to get into each episode. And looking back on your younger self, what knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I have a 17-year-old son. I keep giving him advice. So.
Is he listening?
Better.
Listen, I have a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I will admit I have. It feels like the scale that was going that I was getting dumber by the day. It's starting to come back. That maybe I'm not. It's coming back a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I would say learn from others' mistakes. Don't feel like you have to learn it yourself every time. You're not as smart as you think you are. In fact, I have a great new catchphrase that I learned at age, I don't want to disclose my age, but anyway, age 52, never underestimate your own stupidity. Even at age 52, I still do things, and I think, what was I thinking, or what was I not thinking? I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. And you just have to go back and forgive. The catchphrase of our family is we have to have a forgiving family because we're going to hurt each other. We're going to say it. Sometimes it feels like we hurt our family members. We're quicker to hurt them than we'd be more restrained outside.
There's no question about that. Yep.
So we have to be a forgiving family. I ask my kids for forgiveness often, my wife for forgiveness. Thankfully, she's a very patient lady. But I would tell my younger self, don't underestimate your own stupidity and try to listen to other people more.
Yeah. So to your point, I'll be 52 in a couple months, and I've learned a lot about my own stupidity, to your point. And hopefully you can learn from it, right? And hopefully you have people around you will give you a little grace. And I think that's, to your point, both of your points about what we've dealt with in the past year. And you mentioned, I think the phrase you used would listen to some dark times or dark world right now. Yeah, especially the last 2 years, there seems to be a grace for others is lacking a little bit, a little lack of empathy for others. And that's such a powerful. We talk about that a lot here, especially with our teams, is empathy and humility, and empathy can take you a long way.
Yes.
That humility can help you from being so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you realize that maybe you don't know everything. Gosh, and I did not realize that at 20, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany, how would you answer that one?
I would say to not be afraid to walk through open doors.
Okay.
When I was 20, I was working really hard to graduate early with my biology degree, trying to get patient contact hours, trying to get a PA school. I was very driven, and then worked a ton of hours a week, worked extra on the weekends, and I love what I did then. And people will tell me sometimes now, why aren't you a PA anymore, don't you? Because everybody wants to be a PA these days, and they can't believe I don't practice still. But and if you had told me then you're going to have a bunny ministry with 12 bunnies in a bunny barn and a husband who loves you for it, I would have thought that's just crazy. But really, just when you have open doors, don't be afraid. Walk through them and see what God has in plan for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really terrific answer, because when you're 20, you feel like there's this path, right?
Right.
This is the path, and if you get off track, my experience, I wish this was on video, because we think this path is straight line, and the reality is it's all over the place to get from 20 to where I am today. Even if you told me 2 years ago I'd be hosting a podcast and we're discussing bunny blessings, I would have said, what in the world are you talking about, right? So you never know where that's going to take you. And I think the phrase I've heard, or the story I've heard, is, especially with my faith, is when one door closes, God is going to open another door, but you have to be ready for that message. Right. I find myself oftentimes I don't want to hear it because it might not be something I want to do. Right. You know what I mean? And so I'm often maybe avoid opening those doors. So, but listen, I really appreciate you sharing those two questions, especially at the end about Gaston County and your 20-year-old self. So this has really been good. Any other last words or anything else you'd like to share before we really get into? Okay, so how do people, where can they find more information? How do they volunteer, donate? I mean, just share anything and everything, any events coming up, or is anything that, please share, all you want to share on this.
Yes, the best way to reach us is through our website. It's bunnyblessings.com. You can also find us on Facebook. It's Bunny Blessings NC. We are also on Instagram. Thanks to my teenagers, my Instagram postings are getting much better. They say, Mom, that's terrible. Yesterday, in fact, I posted the same story 3 times in a row, and my 16-year-old had to correct it for me. But
That's funny.
We've got another field trip coming up this Friday. We're doing some hospice camps this summer.
Okay.
We're going to be working with Lisa Dees with some foster care camps as well.
Yeah, we had Susanna on months ago on the podcast.
Great.
So, yeah, she's terrific.
So got a lot more assisted livings, nursing homes, traveling to Georgia and South Carolina.
Be at Belmont Abbey for their in a couple of weeks for their exam week.
That's the 4th time we've been there, and that's great. The kids will say, "This is the best day ever. I was having a terrible day. I didn't get my job, and I failed the test, but your bunnies are here, and so I love it." So,
What about volunteers? Do you need more volunteers, or are you at a just?
we do need more volunteers. We especially need volunteers who can go do events with us, go out on visits.
Okay.
And it's really a very easy volunteer job. Usually requires 2 or 3 hours. We're very flexible. We do different days, different times of the day, so there's a little something for everyone. Basically, you're just going, you're providing a smiling face and a helping hand. You're sitting beside someone who's holding a bunny. It's great volunteer opportunities. And the more of those we get, the more people we can go serve with the bunnies.
Okay, great. So any other specific needs that you have?
Yes, I will chime in.
Yes, please.
So, yes, we need lots of people to do those bunny visits, but we could use a few people with some alternate gifting. We could use some help with our website upgrade. We could use some help with, we need a video, an introductory video. We could use some artistic design help we've got the opportunity to go, we've been sponsored to go to Garibaldi Fest and a couple of different local community events. We need a booth, and we need some help with designing the wrap for the van.
Okay.
Just some skill sets that don't match those volunteers she was talking about, but people think, well, I don't want to go hold a bunny, but I know how to do a video for you, or I know how to take some professional photographs for you, or I know how to help you design an artistic wrap, or help you with your website. That would be lovely.
All right. So listeners out there, I mean, we actually might have some contacts ourselves here on some things that we're involved with that might help with that. But any listeners out there who have those specific skills, here's your opportunity to make that impact. Maybe you've been hearing that voice that you need to go do something in the community. Well, here's your chance. So this is a terrific opportunity and a terrific organization. And I will have to admit, I think Elizabeth, how did you describe the office when they walked in with no bunnies this morning? There was like a gasp of, oh. They were so hopeful
that was a massive fail. Yeah. We
No.
I
don't mean that. I don't mean that. But I think we do have some stuffed bunnies over there that.
I would suggest you keep the stuffed bunnies. Let's bring some live bunnies back. We'll schedule an event. If you'll let us, we'll come back and bring a couple of bunnies.
I'm just sorry. I maybe shouldn't have said that. Sorry. I didn't mean that to be a negative. Just because this has really been terrific.
No, but I saw those ladies, and they were heartfeltly disappointed. Yes.
So again, guys, I can't thank you enough for your time, and I also can't thank you enough for what you're doing in the community. Your reputation, because of my precede you with my involvement with Rita and Jennifer. So I know of the good things that you guys are doing and the impact you're making, and ultimately that's what this is all about. And hopefully you guys will get some more recognition and volunteers in some way. Your time today will help you in our community in some way. So I'm going to do I normally do a book recommendation, and I've been doing that for 45 episodes, but for the first time, I'm actually going to recommend a weekly newsletter that I subscribe to. Many episodes ago, I recommended a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, and he actually has a weekly newsletter, and it's called 321 Thursday, which you get it on Thursdays, and you just go to his website, jamesclear.com, and you can subscribe to it. It's just one that I actually read religiously almost every single week. So again, that's just one I would recommend if you get something electronically. And then my quote of the week, I did pick this one intentionally based on our guest this week. And Winston Churchill is one of my favorite guys, historical guys, and we could talk about him a long time. But he said, among many things that he said, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. And I think our two guests today are a great example of making a life by what they are giving to others and how they are serving so many people, not just here in our local community, but as you've heard, it's expanding out. And they have big plans where Brittany's going to be serving about 50,000 people a week here before long.
Tomorrow.
So, guys, again, I thank you, and to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms and continue to give us those good 5-star ratings to help us get noticed. Thanks again to Brittany and Phillip for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Elizabeth King from GSM Services and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.